So the old legacy WNBA media did not think this was possible. They did not think this.
The Indiana Fever continued to make massive moves in free agency, signing Sophie Cunningham and DeWanna Bonner. And you guys, I don't even think they're done.
Not everyone in the WNBA is riding high these days. Some players have just struck it rich by joining a team with Caitlyn Clark, leaving the rest of the league watching with envy.
So Caitlyn Clark is now a member of the new Indiana Fever. Remember what they got the big five. They have five. The top 24 scorers in the WNBA last.
The Fever have crafted something extraordinary around Clark, blending seasoned veterans with up-and-coming stars who thrive alongside one of the best passers the sport has ever seen. While some doubted Indiana's ability to lure top talent, those skeptics were proven wrong. So why are players gravitating towards Indiana while others are left pondering missed opportunities? Let's dive into the details. This shift is a game changer for the WNBA.
So firstly, you guys, Sophie Cunningham was traded to the Indiana Fever for NaLyssa Smith and a pick. The Indiana Fever also acquired forward Jaylen Brown, and I'm going to be completely honest with you, I am not familiar with her game. She is going to be only a second-year WNBA player, so we will have to see how her game translates to the Indiana Fever. But Sophie Cunningham was such a huge...
Caitlyn Clark hasn't even played a single WNBA game yet, but she's already reshaping the league's landscape. When the Indiana Fever clinched the draft lottery, it wasn't just about snagging a future superstar, it was about transforming the franchise's entire identity. For years, Indiana was seen as a perennial underdog, struggling to define itself and attract marquee talent. Now, everything has changed, and the rest of the league is feeling the shift. The prevailing narrative was that Indiana couldn't possibly lure key free agents. Critics genuinely believed that seasoned veterans and emerging stars wouldn't be keen on joining forces with Caitlyn Clark. They assumed she would falter without a solid supporting cast, citing Indiana's market, its history of losing seasons, and the so-called controversies surrounding Clark as deterrents. But here's the truth. Players are driven by the desire to win. In the competitive world of the WNBA, you recognize opportunity when it knocks. Caitlyn Clark isn't just a talented player, she's a generational force who makes life easier for her teammates. She's the kind of athlete who gets everyone involved, elevates good players to greatness, and brings out the best in those around her. That's precisely why Natasha Howard decided to make the move to Indiana.
The news just dropped. DeWanna Bonner has been signed to the Indiana Fever. I'm about to knock my light over, bro.
That's why DeWanna Bonner was linked to the Fever, and why Sophie Cunningham ended up donning their jersey. Now, let's take a closer look at Natasha Howard. She's far from an ordinary free agent acquisition. She's a WNBA champion, a former Defensive Player of the Year, and a proven winner. With plenty of choices on the table, she opted for Indiana. And why wouldn't she? Playing alongside Caitlyn Clark and Aaliyah Boston is a dream come true. Clark spreads the floor, dishes out open looks, and consistently pushes the pace, while Boston commands attention in the paint as an interior powerhouse. In that dynamic, Howard flourishes. In Indiana, she'll enjoy easier scoring opportunities, more open shots, and the chance to contribute to something truly remarkable. When Howard inked her deal, the reactions were all over the map. Some in the WNBA media, especially those who rarely delve deep into the nuances of the game, acted as if her decision was nothing short of shocking. They clung to the outdated notion of the Fever as the same old underachieving team from a couple of years back. But the truth is, Indiana is no longer that franchise. They've set a clear vision, a star playmaker at the helm, a dominant post presence, and a coaching staff that knows how to build around such talent. It's this vision that's drawing players to Indiana and rendering the old idea that no one would sign there utterly ridiculous. Then there's Sophie Cunningham. The instant she was traded to Indiana, attention turned her way. Cunningham isn't merely a shooter. She's a gritty, high IQ competitor who excels in a system that values ball movement and purposeful play. She doesn't need to hog the ball to make an impact. Instead, she excels in off-ball movement, finding open spaces and delivering those critical extra passes, all essential skills when playing beside Caitlyn Clark. And let's not overlook her defensive prowess and tenacious attitude. Cunningham's edge, her disruptive play, and her refusal to back down were exactly what Indiana needed. After all, you don't just want talent, you want mental toughness, battle-tested grit, and a willingness to fight every night. That's what sets this new Fever squad apart. It isn't just a collection of skilled players, it's a perfect fit. Clark, Boston, Mitchell, Cunningham, and Howard together form a lineup with clear identity, one that's poised to compete and catch the league's attention. The rest of the WNBA is taking notice. Teams that once dismissed Indiana are now quietly seething with envy as free agents actively choose Indiana. Those who doubted the impact of Caitlyn Clark are starting to see that they miscalculated completely. Clark isn't simply bringing excitement to the court, she's fast-tracking Indiana's transformation into a legitimate contender. Players who once passed on Indiana are now left wondering if they made the wrong choice, because being in Indiana now looks like one of the best opportunities in the league. As the season approaches, the buzz is only intensifying. The WNBA is awakening to a new reality. The Indiana Fever aren't just rebuilding, they're ascending rapidly. And many around the league are starting to feel that intense envy, realizing that the very players who once scoffed at the idea of Indiana might now be regretting their decisions. The Fever have quietly assembled one of the most balanced, well-structured rosters in the league, and it's impossible for other teams not to take notice. For years, Indiana was a team you hardly feared, a mere stepping stone on the schedule, but those days are over. The way they've constructed their roster, the chemistry that's already forming, and the strategic additions they've made are forcing both players and executives across the league to sit up and take notice. Some in the media tried to paint Indiana as an undesirable destination, fixating on external factors and ignoring basic basketball logic. What they missed was simple. Players want to win, and they seek out systems that enhance their abilities. That's exactly what Indiana has created. With Caitlyn Clark leading the way, Indiana's style is modern, fast-paced, and unselfish. A system designed to make life easier for every scorer, shooter, and post player. Take Natasha Howard's move, for instance. Critics speculated that her decision was driven by factors off the court, but in reality, Howard made it clear. She craves recognition, victory, and a place where she can truly thrive. Indiana delivered on all fronts. The old media narratives couldn't fathom why someone like Howard would choose Indiana, yet any true student of the game understood immediately. Playing alongside Caitlyn Clark and Aaliyah Boston is an ideal situation for a versatile forward like her. She isn't saddled with carrying the offense or forcing plays. Instead, she gets better looks and greater opportunities than she has in years. And consider DeWanna Bonner, who was heavily linked to the Fever. Initially, skeptics questioned why she'd ever opt for Indiana. But why wouldn't she? Indiana offers a team-first, up-tempo style where veteran scorers can extend their careers while remaining highly productive. With Indiana's system, Bonner wouldn't be overburdened with minutes. She'd be surrounded by youthful energy and allowed to focus on what she does best: scoring and leadership. Instead, Bonner remained in Connecticut, a team that, while still competitive, might lack the vibrant, exciting environment Indiana is building. Because here's the bottom line: Indiana is on track to be one of the most exciting teams both to watch and to play for. With Clark's visionary playmaking, Boston's commanding presence in the paint, Mitchell's scoring prowess, Cunningham's grit, and Howard's versatility, the pieces are finally coming together in a way few teams can match. And now, the WNBA is watching closely. Teams that once dismissed Indiana are now rethinking their stance, while players who previously overlooked the Fever are beginning to reconsider. If Indiana makes a deep playoff run this year, and they just might, those who passed on them are going to regret missing out. What's most striking about the Fever's roster is how seamlessly everything fits together. It's not just about possessing talent, it's about having the right kind of talent. Caitlyn Clark is not a ball-dominant guard who forces poor shots. She's a cerebral playmaker who involves her teammates, ensuring that scorers like Kelsey Mitchell and Sophie Cunningham get the looks they deserve. Aaliyah Boston isn't just a reliable post presence. She's an elite two-way big who can anchor the defense and dominate on the boards, freeing up her teammates to focus on their roles. Natasha Howard brings veteran savvy and impact on both ends, offering Indiana the switchability and offensive depth they need. When you combine all these elements, you get a team built to win. As the Fever gear up for their inaugural season with Clark at the helm, one question looms large in the WNBA. How soon before other teams try to replicate Indiana's blueprint? Because there's no denying it, the envy is palpable. Players and executives who once wrote off Indiana are now witnessing a transformation in real time. This isn't just about one superstar. It's about a front office that has meticulously constructed a balanced, synergistic roster, forcing everyone to take notice. For years, Indiana was a team you'd barely give a second glance. Today, however, the Fever have redefined themselves through shrewd roster moves, strategic chemistry, and a visionary approach. Some critics in the media clung to outdated perceptions, failing to grasp that players want to win and thrive in systems tailored to their strengths. And with Caitlyn Clark steering the ship, Indiana's fast-paced, unselfish style isn't just refreshing, it's revolutionary. The signing of players like Natasha Howard, along with the buzz surrounding Bonner and Cunningham, signals a new era for the Fever. In a few short months, the Indiana Fever have transformed from an afterthought into one of the league's most coveted destinations. The pieces are finally in place, the chemistry is undeniable, and the envy from across the WNBA is unmistakable. It all comes down to one thing. Caitlyn Clark has changed everything. Her arrival has not only elevated the talent on Indiana's roster, but has also created an environment where players genuinely want to be. And as the league watches this transformation unfold, it's becoming increasingly clear that Indiana isn't just back in the game, they're here to change it.
This is now known around the league. And it's telling if DeWanna Bonner says she chose the Fever over the Lynx and Mercury to win now.
Minnesota fans, Cheryl Reeve thought she had Bonner locked down, with the deal nearly done. Then, out of nowhere, the Fever swooped in, stealing Bonner and derailing the Lynx's entire offseason plan. Reeve is furious she lost Bonner to Clark in Indiana.
But the Lynx were there. So, to choose the Fever over them is saying something. And I think all of those players choosing the Fever said all you need to know.
Bonner had been dropping hints for months, wanting to win now and barely reacting to the Mercury trading for her fiancé. Minnesota ignored the signs, thinking they had it locked, while Bonner played chess and Reeve was stuck on checkers.
I'm glad that this really worked out because this almost turned really ugly for the WNBA, man. You talking about Nafisa Collier being on a revenge tour. That was definitely going to be a revenge tour worth watching, man, because they were going to mop the league.
This wasn't a last-minute move. The Lynx had been planning it for months, confident Bonner was their missing piece. They'd already envisioned championship parades, expecting her to join Collier and McBride for a title run.
Man, I want y'all to hear this. All 5 of last season's regular starters left during this offseason free agency. They're talking about the Connecticut Sun here, including 3 who had spent their entire careers, a collective 23 seasons with the organization. One of those players, Alyssa Thomas, sought a move to a championship contender, Phoenix, with superior facilities.
And if you need proof of just how deep Minnesota was invested in this plan, they even considered trading for Alyssa Thomas, Bonner's fiancée, in a last-ditch effort to sweeten the deal. That's the basketball equivalent of buying someone a house before the first anniversary. Risky, desperate, and ultimately pointless.
The Lynx also explored trading for Thomas, league sources told The Athletic, and looked at signing her fiancé and former Sun teammate DeWanna Bonner.
While Reeve and the Lynx made their pursuit obvious, Indiana stayed quiet, building relationships behind the scenes. As Minnesota made a spectacle, the Fever played a patient, precise game, setting up the perfect heist.
Nonetheless, the other things or other desires or other factors, as they say, I'm pretty sure that's the key factor of why she left and why she went to the Fever instead of the Lynx.
And just like that, it happened. Bonner turned down Minnesota's offer and chose to team up with Caitlyn Clark in Indiana. The Lynx were left scrambling, Reeve fuming. What was supposed to be their biggest offseason acquisition had just slipped through their fingers, and there was nothing they could do to stop it.
Now, thinking of the Lynx, man, that would be a disgusting team if she ended up going to the Lynx, man. Can you imagine Alyssa Thomas going to the Lynx, allowing Nafisa Collier to play the 4, and then you even have Bonner there as well?
DeWanna Bonner played Cheryl Reeve and the Lynx front office like a fiddle, and they never saw it coming. The wildest part? Bonner had been dropping breadcrumbs about her true intentions for months, and not a single person in Minnesota picked up on them. The signs were there, right in front of their faces. If only they had been paying attention.
Because I can't even imagine Fee at the 3, and then you have Bonner and Alyssa at the 4 and the 5. Oh my goodness, bro. You could tell the Lynx knew that the Indiana Fever were piping up as far as grabbing some of the best players to make that organization run like a well-oiled machine, man.
At last season's WNBA All-Star Game, Bonner and Caitlyn Clark had deep talks, hinting at something big. While Minnesota thought they had Bonner, she was already planning a future with Clark in Indiana.
All-Star Game. Now, there's certain pictures coming around, floating around online of Caitlyn Clark and DeWanna Bonner at the All-Star Game, chopping it up, kind of insinuating, not saying that this facts, that this whole situation kind of could have been in the works already.
Some last-minute change of heart. It was a masterfully executed move, months in the making. Bonner let Minnesota think they had the upper hand, but in reality, she had already bought into the Fever's vision long before free agency even opened. While Reeve and the Lynx were busy plotting their championship run, Bonner was quietly buying into Indiana's long-term blueprint.
Most of the teams do realize that is about to happen, so they are strengthening up their roster. And that move right there would have been crazy, fam. That would have been a crazy move. Having Alyssa Thomas and DeWanna Bonner on the Lynx, that would have been unfair because then you have Fee and then you have McBride. Oh my goodness, dog.
Phoenix thought they had it locked with the Alyssa Thomas trade, thinking Bonner couldn't resist. But she wasn't tempted at all, leaving their plan in ruins and them scrambling to figure out what went wrong.
Now, from the jump, I felt like Alyssa Thomas and DeWanna Bonner was going to be that other couple that always stayed together. But, you know, DeWanna Bonner pulled a rabbit out of the hat on me, man, and said, hey, I'm going Indiana.
Minnesota had every reason to believe they were the perfect fit. They had the championship pedigree, a seasoned coach in Cheryl Reeve, and a roster packed with talent ready to win now. On paper, it made perfect sense for a 37-year-old veteran chasing one last ring before calling it a career. But Bonner saw something different, something both Minnesota and Phoenix somehow overlooked.
But Phoenix also heavily courted Bonner, league sources said, yet the desire to win immediately, among other factors, led Bonner to the Indiana Fever.
In her statement, Bonner didn't focus on joining a powerhouse, but on Indiana's potential to grow the game. She saw an opportunity to build something special, while others saw a work in progress.
Now, I wonder what the other factors were. I mean, going to the Lynx is definitely a win right now situation. It's mainly the other factors that made her go to the Indiana Fever.
The Indiana Fever just went from a WNBA afterthought to the hottest ticket in town. DeWanna Bonner's decision wasn't just your typical free agent move, it was a statement. When she signed with Indiana, she wasn't chasing an easy ring. She was looking to build something that would transform a struggling franchise into a legitimate powerhouse. And if you ask her, that journey to greatness starts right now.
We have more eyeballs on the game, and Caitlyn Clark brings that. Why would we feel some kind of way because she has
WNBA icon Lisa Leslie recently shared her thoughts with unexpected candor regarding the Caitlyn Clark TV controversy. When questioned about the Indiana Fever's overwhelming presence on national television, with an astonishing 41 out of 44 games broadcasted, Leslie's response turned heads and sparked widespread discussion.
Did an interview with USA Today, and I wanted to jump on really quickly and share that in case you missed it, and also share my perspective, because it's so noteworthy how Lisa Leslie responds to the news that the Indiana Fever.
Her insightful viewpoint completely turns the conversation around, shedding light on why some of the most influential figures in women's basketball see the situation in a radically different light than many of today's critics. The statistics are undeniable. The Indiana Fever are set to appear on national television for 41 of their 44 regular season games, marking an extraordinary level of exposure for any WNBA team. This announcement has ignited intense debates online, with some accusing favoritism, while others applaud the added visibility for the league.
Caitlyn Clark making waves without winning a championship, despite getting very close. If UConn doesn't take it this year, it feels like, Paige is going to be in that same boat. So I'm curious if you think winning an NCAA championship is needed for that eventual GOAT conversation, greatest of all time.
When USA Today recently asked four-time Olympic gold medalist and WNBA legend Lisa Leslie about the controversy, her response surprised many. Instead of jumping on the bandwagon of criticism or expressing any frustration, she offered a masterclass in perspective. Her answer perfectly illustrated why the legends of women's basketball see the situation in a way that differs greatly from some of today's critics.
Marketing, and we cannot deny what Caitlyn Clark has done for the women's game. I'm not going to act like it's something that we don't see. She's had a huge effect, called the Caitlyn Clark effect. Yes, have we ever had teams have to get into larger arenas to play against a team? No, we have not. So if we have more eyeballs on the game and Caitlyn Clark brings that, why would we feel some kind of way because she has more television games? I think we have to understand that when one player eats, we all eat. And as we all get more opportunities, it just opens it up for everyone else. And I think Caitlyn has said that even herself in certain interviews. And I love that. I love that she's not the player who's like, it's all about her. It's not. She's giving love and homage to those of us that have come before her. She shares the wealth with her teammates, and she doesn't have to do that. So I just don't, again, I don't know what the big deal is about the fact that Caitlyn is getting a lot of love. She deserves that, and she's helped change this game just as a lot of other players have. But it is what it is, and I think that we are all benefiting.
I believe it's all about money, marketing, and we can't ignore what Caitlyn Clark has done for the women's game, Leslie said with conviction. I'm not going to pretend it's something we don't see. Her direct and honest statement cuts through the chatter that has surrounded WNBA discussions since Clark's rise to prominence.
National Player of the Year, I won all of the individual awards, but sometimes, it's very hard to win a national championship, regardless of how much people talk about it, like, oh, you have to have it. It is one of the hardest things to do in a tournament where you have so many games and you're trying to get there. So yeah, shout out to all of the players who were able to win national championships, but it doesn't make a player who didn't win a national championship any less of an amazing individual player and the possibility to be in the talks of being.
Leslie, who lived through the early struggles of the WNBA as one of its founding superstars, understands something that seems to elude many current observers. This level of attention is unprecedented and should be embraced. Have we ever had teams having to play in larger arenas to accommodate a crowd? No, we have not, Leslie pointed out, referring to the numerous venue changes across the league to meet the demand for seats at Fever games. This simple remark speaks volumes. Leslie isn't viewing Caitlyn Clark's impact through a lens of jealousy or insecurity. She's placing it within a historical context, something she's uniquely qualified to do as someone who witnessed the league's formative years. What makes Leslie's perspective particularly valuable is that she brings the experience of having to build the league with far less support and recognition. During Leslie's early years in the WNBA, players fought just to get basic media coverage. They played in smaller arenas with limited broadcast opportunities, laying the foundation for today's increased visibility through sheer talent and perseverance. Given this history, one might expect Leslie to feel frustration over the attention Clark is receiving so early in her career. But instead, Leslie offers a level of wisdom that highlights why the pioneers of women's basketball often have a different viewpoint from some of today's critics. When one player eats, we all eat, Leslie explained. As we all get more opportunities, it opens doors for everyone else. This philosophy underscores the fundamental divide in how people view Clark's rise. While some see the attention as a zero-sum game, where Clark's visibility means less spotlight for others, Leslie sees the expansive potential. More exposure leads to more viewers, which means more revenue, and more revenue leads to better contracts and improved conditions for all players. Leslie also praised Clark's approach to the spotlight. "I love that she's not the player who's like, it's all about her," Leslie said. This speaks to an often overlooked aspect of Clark's character, her consistent efforts to redirect attention to her teammates and to the larger women's game. Despite the media frenzy surrounding her, Clark has repeatedly emphasized that she's just one player in a league full of incredible talent. "I don't understand what the big deal is about Caitlyn getting so much love," Leslie continued. "She deserves it, and she's helped change the game, just like a lot of other players have." Leslie's statement highlights a crucial difference in perspective. She doesn't see recognition as something that should be evenly distributed regardless of impact. Instead, she acknowledges the reality that different players contribute differently to the game's growth, and the attention they receive often reflects this. What stands out in Leslie's comments is how they contrast with the narrative pushed by some media outlets. Rather than framing Clark's popularity as divisive or unfair, Leslie sees it as something positive for everyone involved. "We are all benefiting from the effects that she's had on the game," Leslie said. "I just appreciate the way she shows up." Leslie went on to highlight Clark's qualities that deserve recognition. She's a fierce competitor, a trash talker, a player who elevates her teammates, and an exciting talent to watch. These observations come from a deep understanding of the game, not just marketing hype. As a Hall of Famer who's experienced basketball at its highest level, Leslie evaluates Clark based on her skills and impact, not just her media presence. Leslie's appreciation extends beyond Clark to the entire WNBA. "I miss seeing Aja Wilson out there. She's still one of the best players in the world," Leslie remarked, also praising Breanna Stewart as one of the league's top talents. By mentioning these established stars, Leslie shows that recognizing Clark's impact doesn't diminish other players. It's entirely possible and necessary to celebrate multiple forms of excellence simultaneously. Leslie then addressed the core issue directly, the disparity in televised games between the Fever and other teams. "Are we going to get upset about 5, 6, 10 games less on TV or not?" she said. "I don't think we should. We have access to find these games now in a way we've never had before, and we need to appreciate that." This perspective reflects a generational difference in how WNBA visibility is perceived. For pioneers like Leslie, who played at a time when women's basketball on TV was almost impossible to find, the current multi-platform availability represents an incredible leap forward. A few games difference in national TV coverage is a small issue compared to the overall growth of the league. "I'm so thankful for her," Leslie said of Clark. "I'm thankful for all of these women and where the game is now. We have to step back and see the bigger picture and how it's impacting all of us." This call to focus on the bigger picture encapsulates the wisdom Leslie brings to the conversation. As someone who helped build the WNBA from the ground up, she understands that the league's growth hasn't been linear or equal at all times. different eras have had different catalysts, stars, and opportunities.
But you want to boycott the one player, looking right at you, Angel Reese and Asia Wilson, one player that has caused the revenue to go way up in the monetary values. That's what you want to do. You think you're helping these women?
The NBA civil war has officially begun. On one side, Asia Wilson and her supporters are reportedly urging fans to boycott Caitlyn Clark's games. On the other side, millions of new fans, brought to women's basketball by Caitlyn's rise, are baffled by any attempts to undermine the star.
That's what they're mad about. 41 nationally televised games, and they are furious over it. I can't understand.
The league has never been more popular. Fever games are filling arenas. ESPN is airing more WNBA content than ever, and social media is buzzing about women's basketball. Yet, instead of embracing this growth, some players and their fans seem set on resisting it. The true motive behind the boycott effort reveals an uncomfortable reality about fame, jealousy, and the future of women's sports.
The original fans, activist fans, that's what they are, all right? Just keeping it real. They don't like the fact that you want to watch these games. They don't like the fact that you are 3 or 4 times the amount of them.
Have you seen what's unfolding in the WNBA right now? A full-blown civil war is erupting among fans over Caitlyn Clark getting 41 nationally televised games this season, more than any other player in the league. The tension has hit a boiling point, and it's causing rifts nobody expected.
Right here, Caitlyn Clark in the Fever will have more nationally televised game than any NBA player this year. Sorry, LeBron. Sorry, Luka. Sorry, every other player in the league. Let's be honest. I've seen the NBA ratings. She's beaten most of them.
Some WNBA fans are actually planning to boycott Indiana Fever games in an effort to lower viewership numbers. Can you believe that? They're deliberately trying to reduce the audience just because they think Caitlyn Clark is getting too much attention. And it's not just random trolls online. People within the WNBA media ecosystem are promoting the idea that fans should illegally stream games or avoid watching Fever games altogether.
So they're all mad right now, furious, and my goodness, guys, they're talking boycott. Oh, what? Oh, there's strength in numbers. There's tens of you.
What's truly staggering about this situation are the numbers. Caitlyn Clark will appear on national TV more than any NBA player this year. Not just any WNBA player, but any NBA player, period. LeBron James, Luka, Stephen Curry, these global superstars are getting less TV time than a WNBA rookie. That's completely unprecedented in basketball history.
And yes, I understand. This is a very, very small minority. It is a very small minority of people, but it is a loud, vocal minority. And this is not the general public. This is not the general population.
For years, a dedicated but small group of hardcore fans has been the driving force behind WNBA discussions, supporting the league through thick and thin, often when no one else was paying attention. But now, millions of new fans are flooding in, many of whom have never watched women's basketball before, and they're shifting everything, from how the league operates to who gets the spotlight.
We're not supposed to talk about it out loud, maybe. That's a massive part. Straight white girl's a big part of it too. I mean, it's out loud. It's out loud. It just came out of my mouth like that. Just easy peasy. So they're mad, and they are calling for boycotts.
When you look at what's really going on, the boycott movement exposes an uncomfortable truth. Some longtime WNBA supporters would rather see lower viewership than watch Caitlyn Clark succeed. They're willing to harm the league's growth just to make a point. WNBA media figures have expressed shock at these calls, highlighting that this vocal minority doesn't reflect the views of most fans.
The Slows are now planning to, quote, boycott Indiana Fever games to affect the viewership. They really think they matter in the big scheme of things.
The reality is, we're witnessing a classic case of gatekeeping. Longtime fans who feel a sense of ownership over a niche interest are suddenly watching it go mainstream and feeling threatened by the influx of newcomers.
It's just mad. And what they have now trying to do is they are trying to boycott Indiana Fever games. I'm not joking when I say this. They are literally saying, boycott Indiana. We need to all boycott the Indiana Fever games so they don't get more national TV games. We don't get more national TV games next year.
Critics of the boycott movement argue how counterproductive it is. By deliberately lowering viewership numbers, fans aren't just targeting Caitlyn Clark. They're potentially jeopardizing the financial future of every player in the league. This boycott could have unintended consequences that affect the entire landscape of women's basketball.
I cannot believe it. And again, this is a minority of people, but the problem is the idiotic minority somehow have, a lot of them somehow have ins with WNBA players, WNBA teams and stuff. I cannot believe it. Like,
when you trace the money in professional sports, it becomes clear how self-defeating this boycott really is. Before Caitlyn Clark, WNBA games were lucky to attract 200,000 viewers. Now, they're drawing over 1 million, and that five-fold increase isn't just a number. It represents life-changing money for every player in the league.
That equivalent, like, I just can't believe it. But their reasoning for boycotting the Fever games, they're literally saying, we should illegally stream the games when the Fever play our team. And I'm like, one, you are not a big enough percentage of the population for it to have any effect.
Let me break down how this works. The WNBA doesn't just randomly set players' salaries. They're directly linked to something called media rights deals. These are huge contracts that networks like ESPN, ABC, and CBS pay to broadcast games. And what determines how much these networks will pay? Viewership numbers. More viewers mean more advertising revenue, which leads to higher payouts for broadcasting rights.
All that does is harm the players. No matter who you are, what team you are a fan of, if you want the players to make more money.
Right now, the WNBA is in the midst of negotiating its next media rights deal, and this is the absolute worst time for fans to be talking about boycotts. Networks are seeing the viewership spikes from Caitlyn Clark and are eyeing those numbers as a goldmine. They're prepared to pay much more than they did before she joined the league. Those million-plus viewer games aren't just benefiting Clark. They're raising the potential salary cap for every player in the league.
They're actively trying to ungrow the game. And it's madness. It's absolutely madness. Like, they're threatening to boycott the Fever games. All 257 of them threatening to boycott Fever games like it makes any difference. Like, these people are not fans of basketball. These people are actually not fans of the WNBA.
Think about this. Games featuring Caitlyn Clark are drawing 5 to 10 times more viewers than the league's average before. What does that mean? Networks might be willing to pay 5 to 10 times more for broadcasting rights. This is exactly what the WNBA has been striving for since day one. The kind of mainstream attention that brings in serious money.
They just don't like Caitlyn Clark. Like, this is genuinely, it's nothing to do with basketball. And it's nothing to do with Caitlyn Clark, the person. There's no rhyme or reason to it, because I don't think there is a harder person to dislike.
Here's where the boycott idea becomes incredibly ironic. Many of the same fans calling for boycotts have been the loudest advocates for better pay for WNBA players, highlighting the salary disparities between male and female athletes. Now that there's finally a player bringing in the viewership that could help close that gap, they want to tank the numbers. It just doesn't add up.
They just don't like Caitlyn Clark. It's a personal thing, and they will literally. These people, again, they're not fans of basketball. They're not fans of the WNBA. They're not fans of any teams. They just don't like Caitlyn Clark.
What's especially frustrating is how short-sighted the boycott supporters are being. They don't seem to realize that higher viewership creates a positive feedback loop for the entire league's economy. More viewers lead to more ticket sales, more jersey and merchandise purchases, and increased interest from sponsors. The whole economic ecosystem of women's basketball becomes stronger.
I don't think they understand there's no viewership before Clark. So if they boycott, would it really move the needle?
And all this new money doesn't just go to one player, it benefits everyone. A rising tide lifts all boats. The revenue from these media deals gets spread across the league, boosting salary caps and minimum salaries for every player. Veterans who've been grinding for years on smaller contracts could finally earn the kind of money they deserve.
And it's a situation where they move the goalpost. They'll always move the goalpost. You're seeing like prominent figures in the WNBA media-ish space. And the reason I say media-ish space is the Twitter trolls somehow are interact with the damn actual media in a two-way conversations every day. It's mental.
Despite all the financial benefits Caitlyn Clark brings to every player in the league, there's an uncomfortable truth we can't ignore. Would any other sports fans ever try to boycott their most popular player? Can you picture NFL fans organizing to avoid Patrick Mahomes games or NBA viewers refusing to watch LeBron? The double standard here isn't just surprising. It exposes something much deeper about how success is treated in women's sports.
Also, Complex has put out their 10 most influential women in sports. And Angel Reese is not going to like this because, well, she got beaten by Caitlyn Clark for number 1.
Caitlyn Clark did it again. As if shattering records on the court wasn't enough, she just scored another huge victory without even having to tie up her sneakers. Complex just crowned her the most influential female athlete, solidifying her place as the biggest name in sports at the moment. And the best part? She edged out Angel Reese, who, predictably, isn't taking it too well.
So, it's been hard for me, but adjusting and just kind of have that mindset of just moving on has been something I try to give myself a little bit of grace.
That's right. While Clark is out here racking up awards, growing the game, and making history, Reese is busy scrambling for excuses, pretending like this honor doesn't matter. But let's be honest, if Reese had won, we'd never hear the end of it. Instead of celebrating someone else's success, she's doing what she does best, downplaying Clark's accomplishments while spending more time on TikTok than in the gym.
Announcing the top 10 most influential athletes right now. These athletes are reshaping culture. Caitlyn Clark, check. Breaking records. Caitlyn Clark, check. Proving their impact goes far beyond the game, from sold-out arenas to game-changing moves in business and fashion. These women are leading the way. If this is a top 10 list, then sitting on the top of that list, there's only one right answer. There's only one correct choice.
Let's set the record straight. This isn't just about an award. It's about who the fans are really backing. One player has everyone tuning in for her mind-blowing talent, and the other, well, she's famous for making headlines for everything but basketball. Some see this as a rivalry, but let's be real. It's not much of a competition when one player is actually winning.
What is your stance on that? So my whole thing was when I got drafted, number 7. So I'm cool. The pressure is not even on me because I'm drafted 7, so the pressure shouldn't be up there. So I'm all right, cool. I can just hoop. So I'm all right, cool.
It's because you started killing it.
Well, yeah.
And they're oh.
I'm still a rookie. I'm still figuring it out. Trying to figure things out.
All right, let's break it all down. Why did Clark take home this award? What makes her influence so undeniable? And most importantly, why is Angel Reese acting like she got robbed? We're about to dive into the numbers, the impact, and the hilarious aftermath.
And Angel Reese is not going to like this because, well, she got beaten by Caitlyn Clark for number 1. Yeah, so we're going to take a look at that. I think it's hilarious. I will tell you right off the bat, I don't believe there's a singular world, where Angel Reese should be ahead of Simone Biles either. There, I put that out loud.
Caitlyn Clark didn't just break records, she obliterated them. 62 records shattered in a single season. Let that sink in. This isn't just about making history, it's about rewriting the entire record book. No player in WNBA history has ever dominated like this, and we're only in year 1.
My expectation is to be one of the best players in the world one day. I wouldn't expect anything less than that.
More history for the FIBA rookie.
At this point, continue to be myself, and I think a lot of good will come from that.
But here's where it gets even crazier. Clark didn't just put up insane numbers, she actually changed the trajectory of an entire franchise. Before she showed up, the Indiana Fever were stuck at the bottom of the league, barely staying relevant. Then Caitlyn Clark walked in, and boom, they made the playoffs for the first time in nearly a decade. That's not just individual greatness, that's team-changing dominance.
The woman who's been putting women's basketball on her back for the better part of 3 years now. These athletes are reshaping culture. Caitlyn Clark has men watching women's basketball.
Let's talk off-court impact, because this is where Clark leaves the so-called rivals in the dust. WNBA merch sales shot up 500% in her rookie season. Yes, 500%. Jerseys, t-shirts, memorabilia, everything was flying off the shelves. Meanwhile, Reese's jerseys? Just sitting there collecting dust while Clark's sold out in minutes.
This is a phenomenon. Caitlyn Clark is a phenomenon.
This isn't just about jersey sales. Clark's influence is shaking up the whole league's economy. Viewership is through the roof. Arenas that once struggled to fill seats are now packed, but only when Clark's in town. Teams that used to beg for fans are now scrambling to expand seating to keep up with the demand.
So that's what they got on her. Caitlyn Clark, she ran away with number one. I don't think that should surprise us. She came away with number one. Caitlyn Clark is redefining the entire landscape of women's sports. That's right. Her dominance on the court has shattered outdated narratives about women's sports, proving that women's basketball can be just as marketable and widely watched as men's. But the Caitlyn Clark effect goes far beyond her performance. It's reshaping the entire sports landscape. Clark's impact is undeniable. Her presence alone boosts the WNBA attendance by 105%.
Even sports economists are stunned by Clark's impact. Thayer Lavielle, a top name in sports business, called her a lightning rod for women's basketball, comparing her to Michael Jordan for how she's boosting the game's visibility and value. And honestly, she's spot on.
Because when we went to the WNBA games and we went to go watch Caitlyn Clark when they came to play the Washington Mystics in DC, and they shut that they had to move the game from the Washington Mystics WNBA arena to the actual Washington arena where the Wizards played, and it was packed. It was sold out for people to see Caitlyn Clark. That did not happen the day before that when they went to Chicago to play Angel Reese.
Let's talk real numbers. Clark's rookie season alone raked in a jaw-dropping $36 million for Indianapolis. Just one player did that, and it's only the start. Experts predict her rise will boost women's basketball's value by $1.6 billion over the next 3 years. Yes, billion with a B.
I'm going to look at this the way I did with Michael Jordan. Now, she's not the Michael Jordan of her sport as far as athleticism, playing, dominating. But A'ja Wilson is the best player in the game. Not even a debate. But I'm talking about value now. Value to a franchise, value to a league, getting your team in the playoffs. They had the number one pick. They were the worst team last year. And there is value that I can attach to that.
So what does all this mean? Caitlyn Clark isn't just a superstar. She's a movement. She's doing more than dominating on the court. She's reshaping the entire league's future, bringing in new fans, generating massive revenue, and making women's basketball must-watch TV.
I'm talking about value. Michael Jordan was the most valuable player every single year because of what he meant to his team and what he meant to the league. And, oh, by the way, winning 6 titles. Can't argue with that. Caitlyn Clark may not win titles. Las Vegas is still a great team. But the fact that she is doing what she's doing and at a very high level, you know, it's now commonplace where she'll go for 26 and 12. I mean, those are great numbers for any player, no matter how long you've been in the league.
Meanwhile, Angel Reese is still sitting there trying to figure out why she wasn't named most influential. Maybe if she spent more time working on her game and less time complaining on social media, she'd get that this is about sports.
This is about sports. This is about athletic ability. You know what I'm saying? And when you look at Caitlyn Clark's game, who's very reminiscent of a Steph Curry based on her range and shooting the three, plus everything else she does. And then you look at Angel Reese, stop it. Stop it. There's a dude on the internet who cracks me up on TikTok. He's put together a shitload of Angel Reese clips, and it'll say Angel Reese part 36. And it goes, Angel Reese going up for another layup. She misses. Bang! And I mean, dude, it's the funniest. And my whole thing is this, dude. She just seems as uncoordinated as a baby giraffe.
Caitlyn Clark's journey to these awards might seem like a done deal, but the real story is way bigger. Remember Angel Reese? She was hyped as Clark's biggest competition, with the media pushing this so-called rivalry. It was framed as the ultimate showdown, a season-long battle that had fans hooked. But let's be real, was it ever really close?
Saying Angel Reese is better than Caitlyn Clark is saying Rodman was better than Michael Jordan, or Ben Wallace was better than Kobe, or even Andre Drummond was better than LeBron. And I shouldn't have to point out that Angel Reese is actually a poor defender.
From the jump, the media pushed the narrative of two rookies battling for WNBA supremacy. But as the season went on, the gap became painfully clear. This wasn't a duel of equals. It was one player dominating the league, while the other spent more time in the headlines than in the box scores.
Oh, Reese! 3-on-3, part 13, let's get it! Classic long two. Bang! PSA, no rims or backboards were harmed during the filming of this video. But viewers are encouraged to look away. Bang! What? Bang! I heard her say that she might sit out if the WNBA doesn't pay her what she deserves. They say $1 million for every missed layup is fair. Bang!
They are stat penning queen properly. Fair wages for all. I repeat, fair wages.
Remember, they're coming to see her. Long two, butter pecan. Bang!
Then came Rookie of the Year and First Team All-WNBA, and that's when it all came to light. Clark didn't just win, she ran away with it. The so-called competition wasn't even close. As for Reese, she wasn't exactly graceful in defeat. Instead of congratulating Clark, she hit social media to claim Clark didn't deserve the honor. Imagine losing a race by a mile and then demanding a recount.
But her attention, her notoriety is based off Caitlyn Clark. Because she wins the national title, first thing she does, she mocks Caitlyn Clark. And then she doesn't even celebrate with her teammates. So she's made it personal with Caitlyn Clark. Then she's played off of that.
But here's the real kicker. Clark's success isn't about trophies or petty rivalries. She's not out here chasing awards. She's revolutionizing the WNBA. Her impact goes far beyond basketball. She's expanding the game, shattering attendance records, and bringing in millions of new fans. Meanwhile, Reese is stuck trying to convince everyone she belongs in the same conversation as Clark. The difference? Clark is changing the game. Reese is just trying to catch up.